Yeah, so basically what I wanted to do in this session is just the fact that like I'm gonna start from the straight up beginning, okay? And I'm gonna assume you literally know nothing. And I'm gonna state all the fundamentals that you should know that like to really help you succeed in competitive. Like from the beginning, right? And I think that's gonna like, clean slate. You understand what's really important when it comes down to fighting and one-on-ones and even 2-on-2s, and really understand what is important in those situations. So fundamentals of the game. Okay, so obviously we can talk about the power of routines, right? Making sure that you're doing something long term a little bit every day, and that obviously adds up to a ton over time. And that's the biggest thing, right? Like it's like making sure that you have a set routine that you're following, and obviously the routine can evolve after you've mastered certain skills, but based on your current weaknesses, you should add that heavily into your routine. Like for example, we've worked together before, we've seen that your tarping needs help and you want to make sure your tarping is up to par, because then your team can actually succeed, right? If you tarp properly. And
Yeah.
if that's a heavy part of your routine, you'll improve a lot, like day to day. And it's actually important, like not to just make a routine, but actually follow through with it and actually do it every single day. So many people make a routine and then like half-ass it, like never do it, right? Like what's the point of that? That's not going to get anything done. Like you will never see results if that's the case. So obviously, being very hard on yourself to making sure that routine actually gets done every single day. Like when you watch Scented, right? He does Raider course every single day. At least that's what I suspect, right? Because every time he starts his stream, that's what he does. And I'm assuming off stream, that's what he does as well, right? It was like, if I've seen it that consistently, then that's what I assume, right?
Right.
Let's start with fighting, okay? Let's start with like straight up like one-on-ones or anything, like any sort of engagement that you want to take. Fighting comes down to, a couple things. Obviously, it gets a little bit more complicated when it comes down to duos, but like let's start with solos first, right? And then we can move on to like team game modes or whatnot. So basically, you guys know about peaks. You guys know that peaks are very important. Peaks are very like crucial to the game, and also because it's a third-person shooter, right hand peaks exist, right? Because of the fact that like camera is behind you and you're a little bit left of the crosshair, so then right hand peaks exist, right?
Right.
But it's also important to understand that peaks are not just right hands, right? Peaks is a more general term. Right hands is a type of peak, right? And that exists because Fortnite is a thing. But there's peaks in COD, there's peaks in CS:GO, there's peaks in Halo, right? Like peaks is a shooter term, not a Fortnite term, right? So like if I do this, right, and I crouch and I actually did it properly, right? Like, and I shoot properly, right? That's a peak, like crouch peeking, right? Like ducking down and then uncrouching and then shooting and then coming back down again. And you might be like, oh my god, this is so basic. Like, why are we learning this? The truth is, pros abuse basics. They don't do anything else. There's reasons why people like Nanolite and Bizzle, who don't have flashy mechanics, actually succeed in the game, right? It's because they just abuse basics. They're really slow, but they succeed in competitive. Why is that, right? You don't need to be fast. What you need to be is accurate, right? When I say accurate, I don't just talk about aim. Edit accuracy, movement accuracy. Like when you do this edit and then you come out, swing really wide unnecessarily, and then get hit. Like you might get first shot because of right hand, but then you get hit a lot because of the fact that you're swinging so hard. Is that a good movement accuracy? No, not at all, right? This is like micro stuff, but like it's really important. It matters a lot. So this is why like routines, can help you build this up. That makes sense. So like there's a whole bunch of peaks, obviously. Like this is just one. This is the most common example. You can do window peaks, you can do top row edit peaks. There's so many different types of peaks that you can do and create a whole bunch of advantages for yourself. Like a lot of people don't even understand that like it's not just about the edit, it's about where you put yourself, right? So like if someone's standing in that corner right there and I make this edit and I stand right here, I have a right hand peek on him, right? And a lot of people don't really understand that. Like he can't see me behind the wall right there, but I can see him. Like those are the type of angles you should know, right? So like if you hopped in my lobby right now and stood right there, you would not be able to see me.
Right.
And like these little things, right? When you see Noah really play, it's not like it's running through his head like, oh my god, like I know this exact angle works like this, so I have an advantage. Obviously, it's way more fast-paced than that. But understanding it to this level will first, give you that advantage. Like it doesn't go through your brain like that when you play. It's more instinctive, but it helps, right? It can only get instinctive if you first understand it at a very slow pace. That's the first step. You can never hope to like be really fast like Noah really and still make insane correct peaks and correct edits like he does without first understanding it like very slowly, right? And like that's why like a lot of people are like, oh my god, you're like overthinking it, like pros don't do this. They do, but they're like unconsciously competent at it. Does that make sense? Like they don't know they're doing it, but like they are. That's the exact concept they're applying, right? They don't think this deep about it, of course, and at least most of them don't do, but some of them do. Some of them really break it down and really try to understand what's going on. And I think peaks is one of the most important things in fights, but also it comes down, you know, after you learn that, right, that's how you trade good, but then there's more to it. If you just trade good, that's not enough, because now you need to close out the fight. If you can trade good, that just creates HP advantages for you. But then what's the next step after that? Let's say I hit the guy for 150 and then he doesn't hit me at all because I have a really nice P. I also go to the point where I pull out my blueprint and I reset like this, right? And I shoot past, right? I shoot past the wall and then I just reset right after. Like that. So that he doesn't get a trade on me. So now I've gotten very good at peeking, and I've gotten very good at, you know, not taking damage back. So that's first step. But that's not the whole thing. That's not the whole picture. Now he's at a huge disadvantage. He's very low on HP. What do I got to do now? I have to end the fight. I can't just let him, you know, like tarp out like this and then start popping heals in a safe place. I need to pressure him, right? I need to put pressure on him so he doesn't ever pop a mini while I'm pressuring him, right? This is just one-on-ones. Now imagine how complicated it gets with 2-on-2s and 3-on-3s in this sort of scenario. So first thing, right, is getting that HP advantage. Once you got that HP advantage and you haven't taken damage back, is exploits, jumping in, right? I'm breaking down fights so simply, right? It's 2 steps. First, get really good at trading, then trade positively, right? So that you do damage and you don't take any damage. And then after you have a significant amount of HP advantage, jump in and end the fight. Right? And obviously there's other ways to jump in. Like if there's a box like this, you don't have to put a ramp. Like the best way to really do it is the ramp tactic, right? Like this, pickaxe once, place ramp, and then jump in at it, shoot. But there's other ways to do it as well, right? Like you can get it down to 1 HP, whatever the, you know, best way to get it down 1 HP is, and then exploit in like that as well. You don't need a ramp, right? There's other ways to do it. And obviously this is where it gets complicated in 2v2s and 3v3s, because then you can create pinches where there's 2 walls. The guys in here are really weak. I want to go on the right one, my teammates go on the left. They can't possibly hold both unless both of them are holding like separately. But it's just, you know, there's no way they can come up with that solution that quickly. So, you know, that's why it's really important to like understand pressure as well, because in a battle royale context, obviously if you're playing 1v1 realistic wagers, trading is actually all that matters. You don't need to get in. You don't need to end the fight right then and there. At least, you know, as long as you can just out trade, you'll win every week. Right? But in a battle royale context where there's other factors like, hey, I gotta get to zone, I have to save time so I can farm more mats, I can, you know, more time I have, I can find more launch pads and more loot. Like I have a better chance of getting more mobility. All these things matter. And also, you know, avoiding third parties, that's actually the most common response to ending fights quickly, as to why you should end fights quickly. And then, you know, there's another reason, is making sure they don't heal. They might have 6 minis, 3 bigs. Like, why would we want them to heal like that quickly, right? Like, let's not allow them to do that. Let's get an advantage and end the fight quick, so that we can move on with our day. That's how people drop 30 bombs. They don't get scuffed after a fight, because after they get a single advantage, pros actually end the fight right then and there. And that actually, once you learn peaks, is the most important thing in a fight. Genuinely, that nothing trumps that in a battle royale context. You have to end the fight quickly. And so when people learn Fortnite, one of the biggest things they learn is, hey, don't take a 50-50. That's wrong. That's completely wrong. You should take 50-50s when it's justifiable to do so. Right? Straight up 50-50, obviously then I would say it's not a 50-50, right? Because if you have HP advantage and you're jumping in, it really isn't a 50-50. You're jumping in with an advantage, right? But if they're full HP and you're trying to jump in, okay, that's different. Maybe I want to jump in when they're unaware. Maybe like this guy's opening a window looking this way. We might be the same HP, but I can see that he's not aware, so I'm going to jump in, right? And pump him, right? And so like that's the point. Like I think a lot of people try to, you know, like there's like several stages to it. The first noob stage is you don't value peaks, you don't even, you know, use them in fights, and you don't do them well enough. Like maybe you do peanut butters here and there, but you don't do it like the pros do. You don't box fight like the pros do. The second step is you overvalue peaks. Like that's like the second stage. Oh my god, peaks are so important, I'm gonna box fight everyone I see, and then even if I have an HP advantage, I'm just gonna stay beyond my peanut butter. I'm not actually gonna pressure after an HP advantage. That's like still newbie. Like you shouldn't do that either, actually. And I was at a stage like that where I just kept peeking everything, but I never actually ended the fight in a quick manner. And to this day, I mean, I think that ending the fight is actually pretty hard. It's not easy, especially in team game modes. So you know, learning how to do that properly and safely is really important. And then the final stage, you know, there's probably more after this, but at least this is what I frame as the final stage, is getting pressure, trading well, never taking damage unnecessarily, and getting a lot of damage on your opponent, and then ending it right after. As soon as you have an advantage, it ends in 3 seconds after that, right? And you should never allow them to breed after that. So that's the biggest thing, right? I mean, if you just think about fights that way, that's a really basic way to think about it, but you have to frame it some way, right? You can't just be thinking of fights as like, I'm gonna wing it. I played a lot of solo arena, I'm just gonna wing it. There has to be some way in your mind where you framed it and now you understand it. Does that make sense? Now, how you can get those advantages, right? There's several different advantages you can have. You can have height advantage, but height advantage doesn't necessarily mean much, because the guy can just literally do this and just do nothing, right? But height advantage can help in terms of like, yeah, like you can do this, right? Like you can pressure like this, and start pressuring, and then get some free damage, or like, you know, take safe angles like this, and edit like this. Like height does help. But it's not end all be all, right? A lot of beginner players think height is everything, but it's not everything. Like the guy can just play passive and you're done. Like what can you do after that, right? The biggest thing that you can have is HP advantage, right? If you have HP advantage, then you can close out the fight. That's why people start fights with the beam. This is the main reason why they do that. They come up like this, start beam, and then they jump in or like pressure really hard. Otherwise the fight will take too long. If you're just going 200 HP versus 200 HP, the fight takes forever. It takes way too long, unnecessarily, right? Because in a battle royale you want to end it quickly. So, but yeah, I mean that's basically it. It's just a really quick way to frame fights and sort of understand it like that. Endgame, okay? So like general principles you can add to endgame, both solos, duos, and trios if you're still playing that this season, right? Basically, in solos, it's very important to be map conservative. So a lot of people do this in solos, which makes absolutely no sense. Right? Like, why would you ever do this when you have this available to you?
Yeah.
And you can even put it like one step further and start doing this. Like you can actually, I haven't practiced this enough, but you can harp in front of you, which gives you even more cover from the sides. Right? Like instead of, you know, putting it only behind you, just put it in front. Right? Take some practice, but you can get it done. But essentially, there's different tarps that are appropriate for each mode. And there's also different ways you can conserve mats, right? Like, so in first moving, if you want to conserve mats, you don't have to tarp yourself, right? You can see like around you, okay, is there a tarp that I can steal? Is there a straight stair tarp? This is the easiest one to steal, by the way. Right, and then you see this, and then you're like getting from the back, and then you see it, okay, I'm gonna spray them. Because now they have, it's really hard. You'll notice like if this is edited, it's really hard to reset, and hard to hold as well. They don't have that much space. So if you ever see this, try to steal it. And in general, like, just knowing the correct, most appropriate tarp as a tarper is really important. Now, sometimes even this is appropriate, like literally without the top on the side, right? Even if you're not on height, like sometimes this is actually, you know, encouraged, but like you don't need to spend that much, right? And a lot of people just misunderstand how to use mats, and they try to, you know, be really safe, which is obviously like the first priority. You don't want to take free damage, but at the same time, you know, not taking free damage and then doing this is just not worth it. Like, you know, like don't overbuild to achieve that. You can do it in a more safe way. And actually, I would argue that conserving mats is the safest play, because that means your timer for getting an impact has doubled. Like now you don't have to get an impact until like third or fourth moving, because you're so deliberate with your mats, right? And you're not wasting, right? And obviously, like if there's an angle here, like someone's like in a box like this, an opening window, yeah, I'm obviously gonna place a wall here and then move on. Sure, there's times when you should place walls here and there, but then do it for a reason. Like I do it because I see someone, not just like placing, you know, here and there. Does that make sense? So that's like a general principle of tarping that I think like a lot of people misunderstand, is like it's not enough to just overbuild and then be like, oh, I'm just gonna find an impact. Like I was gonna need it to find an impact anyways. But like, I don't think that's the right mentality. You need to think of it in a way where, how can I like literally procrastinate my impact, like in a way, right? Like I don't want to get an impact right now. How can I delay that the longest possible? And the best way to do that is mat conservation and saving mats when possible, right? That's like an end game tip. And a lot of people, you know, a lot of people are like, if there was a spectrum, left side is, you know, not using any mats and right side is overbuilding. A lot of people are on the ends. Like I don't think you should be on either end. A lot of people take way too much damage because they never build, right? When you have a lot of wood at your disposal. And then a lot of people overbuild. They do full tarps when you really don't need to. And there's times when it's good to do full tarps, but you should understand when. But in general, people do them too much, right? And I don't think that's good either. Another concept is win conditions. Understanding when you really need to get an impact and when you don't need to get an impact. Understanding when you need to take a risk and when you don't need to take a risk. Do I actually need this fight? And that's the biggest question that people fail to answer in solo cash cups. They take way too many fights, right? Way too many. And even with shadow floppers removed, you can get away without taking fights with the use of a harpoon. right? And also just understanding like, hey, I have 600 mats. Do I need this kill right now? Do I need to jump in this box right now? No, I don't. I can tarp a little bit longer and go for something, you know, a little bit later. And the thing is, you know, some people also, you know, don't commit to a kill. They don't, you know, jump in when they need to. Like if I have 10 builds left, you best believe I'm jumping in. Like if I'm gonna die, I'm gonna give it my best shot and not just like half-ass an attempt, right? Like if there's a guy in this box right here and I have one build left, that one build's going like this, and I'm going in, right? I don't care what his HP is because my win condition is to kill him. I don't get to play the game if I don't kill this guy right now, right? Like I need to kill him and get in. And so like understanding that win condition is really important. And obviously win conditions can get deeper, and I'm just like, oh, my win condition is to grab low ground and duos, because I understand that the layers on top and layers on the bottom are really important, right? Because being mid ground by end of third moving is just gonna get me killed. Like I'm not gonna live there. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of things like that that can help you out a little bit. Obviously there's more to it than just what I just said, but you know, those are more specific. These are just general topics that I feel like could help, stuff that you can literally learn from just from talking, rather, and you won't even need to scrim to like literally understand any of this. Hey guys, thanks for watching this video. So this video is a little bit of different style than I thought, you know, people might like it, because it sort of shows how I think about the game in a very basic way, right? And understand, you know, like what are the most important things when it comes to competitive, because there's a lot of things in Fortnite, right? There's a lot of variety of skills, but some skills matter more than others, right? So peeking is one, HP advantage, you know, plays are one, jumping in when you're low, tunneling, mat efficiency, all these things are the most important things in my personal opinion, right? And obviously there's more, but I just thought, you know, me coaching someone, this snippet right here would be very helpful for your understanding of the game. And honestly, you can make it pretty far without understanding the game, but I think if you really take the time and think critically about the game, this goes for any esport, by the way, I think you'll learn a lot faster. You'll get to your goals a lot faster. And there's a reason why tier 1 pros can explain the game like this as well. Anyways, thanks for watching this video. Hope you guys really enjoyed it. Leave a comment below on how, you know, if you enjoyed it or if it was good, anything you want in the future, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.